funding agencies. Funding is an act of providing financial resources, usually in the form of money or other values such as effort, time, to finance a need, program or any project. By definition, a funding body is an organization that provides research funding in the form of research grants or scholarships. These organizations can be research councils, government agencies, and some of the projects that are directly related to the social issues also be funded by charity organizations or NGOs. Organizations and projects that require funding normally have to go to competitive selection, and only those that have potential would be chosen. There are different types of funding agencies available. First one is science-based funding agency. Science-based funding agencies are set up to serve the interest of scientific community in general. They support all the disciplines, and some of the examples of science-based funding agencies are AICTE, CSIR, DST and UGC. The second major classification of funding agency is strategic based funding agency. Strategic based funding agencies are set up to promote research in particular area, for example, DRDO, Department of Atomic Energy. These type of funding agencies sponsor projects raised by disciplinary communities, the scientific community and sometimes by external actors also. The third basic classification of funding agencies are political based funding agencies. These are the very rare cases. These type of funding agencies are serving the immediate interest of ministry and sponsor projects that are raised by external actors. Sometimes educational institutions can also act as a funding agency. They serve purposes such as carrying out research projects, guiding people for research, conducting extension program and carrying out consultancy services for central, state and local body as well as for industries and international organization. But mostly funding agencies are public sector financed by state in order to define and execute a large part of science. Why should funding agencies be so concerned with research integrity? While researchers and institutions themselves remain ultimately responsible for taking research with integrity, but funding agencies have obligation to ensure that the research they support is conducted in accordance with the highest possible standard. And responsible conduct of research is mandatory. This is very essence of scientific enterprise and intrinsic to society trust in science. There may be chances that error happens during the research, due to which the cost of self-correction may be increased. Increase in cost can be in terms of economic cost and expenditure, and even in terms of time and human effort that can be increased many folds while doing the research. The funding agencies make it ensure what will be the cost of correction then, and they also ensure the transparent system of good uses of funds. What are the various factors that affecting funding? It can be convergence of policy on common proposals. In India, we are still in the formative phase when it comes to deciding funding agencies for various research projects. There are number of policies with somewhat similar type of guidelines. So, rigorous work need to be done beforehand while choosing a right or appropriate funding agency. Another important factor to consider is implementation of various standards. Sometimes it is possible to apply to multiple funding agencies and track simultaneously regarding the progress rather than individual to one by one. To decide funding agencies for research, extra work need to be done by the researcher. For researcher, the time spent interpreting the rules is the time spent away from the desk. So, the level of automation of compliance is required to reduce the time and effort. What are the different types of funding agencies? There are many funding agencies that can be at national level and even at international level. Some of the funding agencies are University Grant Commission, All India Council for Technical Education, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research known as CSIR, Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology and Indian Space Research Organization. Thank you.